Morning, this is your Stat Sensei, Mr. Spensei, and this is a pre-quiz 2.7 on box and stem plots. We're only going to do problems 1 and 2 on this video. Problems 3 and 4 will be in the next video. So the New York Times posted an article in September 2008 that indicated that Americans now send more text messages than they make phone calls. So that's not a surprise. The article indicated the average teenager sends or receives 1,742 texts a month. I think they do that in a day now. Here's the data for the number of texts in a single day for one middle school class in 2008. Somebody got zero, someone got seven, someone got one, someone got 29, someone had 118. Boy, aren't they popular? Okay. Use the grid below to make a box plot for the data and answer the questions below. Well, first off, to do that, I need to take all of this data, both rows, and both rows I'm going to input in column L1. So I'm going to turn my calculator on. I'm going to press the stat button, edits highlighted, and press enter. I have a bunch of stuff in L1 that I don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and arrow up, press clear, and enter. It's gone. All right, to speed things up, I've already previously entered this data. And so I now have all my data entered in L1. You see 0, 7, 1, 29, and that all matches here. So to do a box plot, I'm going to press second, followed by stat plot, press enter. Make sure that's on. Right now it's off, so I'm going to arrow to the left and press enter. Now it's on the on. There's no off light showing. Drop down to type. Make sure you select the box plot with the dots because that shows outliers. This one doesn't, so we want the one that it's flashing on. Once you select it, press enter. My list is in L1, so blue 1. Don't need to change the frequency, all right? Because we don't have a frequency table with it. And we're going to go ahead and drop down, and then we'll press zoom followed by number 9 for zoom stat. Okay, we get a weird looking box plot, and it looks like we show an outlier up there. All right, I'm gonna go to y equals. I got something in there. I'm gonna clear out. That has nothing to do with this. I'm press zoom 9. Go back to our box plot. There we go. A little bit better. So now we need to get that box plot on our paper. Well, um, what I would start with is I'd go ahead and hit the trace button right here, and then I can arrow. And so now I've arrowed down to the minimum value, and I find it's at 0. So I started over here at 0, and I'm going to make a good dot. You know what? I'm going to use blue. It shows up a little bit better. All right, so there's 0. Then I'm going to arrow one more over, and I get to Q1, and it's at 3. Well, if I'm counting by tens down here, and you might want to scoot this over so your lower fence is on the paper. But 0, if I do that, then 3, this would be 5, so 3 is somewhere in between. So 3 is about here, maybe not exactly, but it's close. We go ahead and connect that. Then I'm going to go over and got my median at 9, which is just below 10. So I need to be just below 10. Then I'm going to move over to Q3, which is at 43. So between 40 and 45. At that point, I can go ahead and finish my box in. Hopefully that's showing up for you, even if it's not the prettiest. All right. So we have right here, we have our minimum. This is Q1. This is our median. This is Q3. And we're going to arrow over. And we have our highest mark that is not an outlier. That's not actually our max, but that is our highest thing that's not our highest data point that's not an outlier. And it was at 98. And then we arrow one more over and we get to 118. This is actually our max. And even though you don't need to label it max, I'm going to label this max because it's my highest value point, and I'm going to label this one min just so you know that. All right. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points that make up our 5 number summary. So min, Q1, median, Q3, and max make up our 5-number summary. Okay, it says show the calculations for the lower fences. So for the fences, well, to do that, I need to know what my fence formulas are. So my lower fence formula is less than Q1 minus 1.5 IQR. Well, I don't have that information yet. And then my upper fence is Q3 plus 1.5 IQR. Well, at that point, even though I want to show the calculations, I want to draw them on, I'm going to go ahead and actually do all the calculation work. And then we'll come back and after we have that, then we will actually do our fence calculations. So we're going to come back and do that. We want to get all of our data in. Okay, so first off, we're going to go stat, edit, or stat, excuse me, I'm back up. I'm going to press the stat button. I'm going to arrow over to calc, and I'm going to go to one variable statistics and press enter. My data is in L1, and the very first thing it asks for is a lower fence. Not ready for that, not ready for the upper fence, but I can go ahead and do the mean, which is 27.48. That's my X bar. Please don't forget that's also my average. All right. Then the next thing we ask for is a minimum. Well, our minimum is 0. And we get that right there. And that's what we actually have marked. And we know that that's the lowest value in the data set. Q1 was at 3, which is what we also got off the graph. I don't see my median, but if I remember to arrow down, I get median, and it's at 9. Then Q3 is at 43. And then my max is 118. Okay, I'm going to highlight some numbers here. The minimum, Q1, median, Q3, and max. Those numbers make up my 5-number summary. So those are my 5-number summary right there. Okay, continuing on. The mode is the one that occurs most often, and 0 occurred 3 times. So mode is the most because there's mo of it. All right, so the mode is the most, and 0 occurred most often. It occurred 3 times. The next, it asks for IQR. Well, we need to remember that IQR equals Q3 minus Q1. Well, Q3 was 43, Q1 is 3, so 41 minus 3 is 40, and this is because this is Q3 minus Q1. The next thing are outliers. Well, we know that 118 is an outlier. It's the one by itself, okay? And that was our, in this case, is our maximum value, and we see it because of the graph we drew. We can also find that when we calculate our fences. Okay, so now we need to go back and calculate our fences. Well, we wrote our formulas, Q1 minus 1.5 IQR. Well, Q1, that was 3, which is right here, minus 1.5, that number's from the formula. IQR was something we previously calculated. We calculated IQR over here at 40. All right, so when we do that, 3 minus 1.5 times 40, and we just type that in the calculator and make it look exactly like you have it written. 3 minus 1.5 parenthesis 40. And we get negative 57. So it's way down here. Matter of fact, it'd be off the paper, but it's way down here. The lower fence is negative 57. You can't have negative text. Well, actually, I've sent a lot of text messages that were negative, but you can't have a negative number of text messages. So because of that, there are no outliers on the low side. On the high side, it's Q3, and please note, Q3 is right here, minus 1.5, And there's that IQR again, which we calculated earlier. So Q3 was 43 plus 1.5 comes from the formula times 40 equals 100. So let's check that out. 43 plus 1.5 parenthesis 40 is 103. All right, so I get 103 as my upper fence. So this right here is a little bit of an error. It's correct up here, just an error there. So it's 103. So anything greater than 103 is an outlier. So when I look at this, it's like, oh, this 118, that's above 103, it's an outlier. Now, it didn't ask you this, but if it asked for the shape, I'd look at this and go, you know what? They stretched this. This data is stretched to the right. So this means it's skewed to the right. So it didn't ask, but this would be skewed right. Okay. All right. Next one. Here are the scores on the first statistics test. Using the grid below, make a box plot for the data and answer the questions below. All right. So once again, we're going to go to our favorite spot on the calculator, stat edit. So we'll press stat, press edit. I have stuff in there that I don't want. I'm going to press clear. Oops. Press clear and then press enter. I'm going to go blue 4. And now I've got all my data entered in there. Okay. So once I have that, I can go ahead and draw my box plot. I can go blue, stat plot. I'll make sure it's on. Make sure I have the box plot that shows outliers, the one with the dots. Press enter, make sure you have it. My X-list is L1, so blue 1. Frequency is 1, and press zoom. And then we want number 9, zoom stats. And we get the box plot that looks like this, and we look, hey, we have 2 outliers down low. So use the trace feature, so press the trace button. And now you can arrow over to what things are. So we see our data is a low of 43. So the lowest score was a 43, and our highest score was a 98. No 100s, that's a surprise. Okay, so lowest score is 43. And so if we counted by tens, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. All right. Well, if this is 40, then this is 45. So 43 is going to be about right here. And it's not only an outlier, that is my minimum value. The next value is 45, so I'm going to mark it right here. By the way, you will mark every single outlier. Then we're going to get to the lowest point that's not an outlier. All right, this is not the minimum value. It's just the lowest point, data point that's not an outlier, and it's at 72. So it's somewhere between 70 and 75. Arrow up to Q1. This is 82. Then 87.5 is our median. So between 85 and 90 should be right here, almost in the middle. Then we have Q3 at 93. And our highest value was at 98. So let's go ahead and connect everything up and finish this up as far as drawing this little box plot. All right, so we've got everything connected. Need to put some labels on there. This value happens to be my max. This is my median. This is Q1, and this is Q3. Remember, this is not the minimum. The minimum is my lowest value. Now, what I labeled here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those 5 labels make up my 5-number summary. So if I'd asked for the 5-number summary, that's what you would use. Okay, it says show calculations for the fences. We'll come back and do that in just a moment. All right. So the next one. So we're going to skip initially the lower fence and the upper fence, and we're going to drop right into the other summary statistics. So I want that information. So I'm going to go back and press my button stat, and I'm going to arrow one over to calc, one variable statistics, blue one. And I see that my mean or my X bar is 84.8, and that's what they asked for was my mean. Remember, this is my X bar. It's also known as my average. Then my minimum is 43. Q1 is at 82. That's first quartile. 25% of the data is less than that. This is my median at 87.75, which is the middlemost data point. 50% are larger and 50% are smaller than this. Arrowing down again, I get Q3 at 93. And arrowing one more time, I get my maximum value of 98. Now I'm going to highlight these values. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those 5 values make up my 5-number summary. All right. So it's really important to know what the 5-number summary is. And then the mode. The mode is the value that occurred most. Well, you can have more than one mode. And right here, you see that we actually had a bunch of modes. We had 86, 87.5, 88, 91, 93, 93.5, and 94.5. Okay, IQR. IQR is the interquartile range, and it's Q3 minus Q1. So Q3 was 93, and Q1 was 82. So 93 minus 82 is 11, so our IQR is 11. Then it asks for outliers. Well, we can see that real easily when we did our graph. We said, oh, that was at 43 and that was at 45. And forget, in case you forget, we could go zoom 9, use the trace feature. And there's one at 45 and there's one at 43. Okay, the one thing we haven't done is shown our calculations for our fences. All right, so our lower fence equals Q1 minus 1.5 IQR. That's our lower fence formula. Well, Q1 was 82 minus 1.5. And our IQR was 11. That's what we calculated earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that just so you know that that's where that came from. Then we did our upper fence. And our upper fence, and this should be a less than, and this should be a greater than Q3 plus 1.5 IQR. And Q3 in this case was 93. So 93 plus the 1.5 and then the IQR that we already calculated. All right, so that's how you find it. So let's actually calculate them to get these values. So for our lower fence, we'd go 82 minus 1.5 parenthesis 11, and we get 65.5. So that's our lower fence. So if X is less than 65.5, it's an outlier. And sure enough, we had 2 points that were less than 65.5. We had a 45 and a 43. So those were outliers, and we noted them over here. On the upper fence side, we'd go 93 plus 1.5 parenthesis 11, and we get 109.5. So we needed X value. X would have to be greater than 109.5. Well, our highest score on the test was a 98. There was no one who had 110 or 109.6. So no grade above 109.5. So no outliers on the high side. Okay. All right. I hope this helped. Look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks for watching.